For the longest time, the only way to provide the proper amount of energy for a coaster to complete its course would be a traditional lift hill. It wasn't until the end of the 20th century that manufacturers started to introduce launch coasters. These types of coasters all came in various styles, but had the same concept. Well, as the launch coaster design continued to be redefined, we got to the multi-pass launching coaster. So, what is a multi-pass launching roller coaster, or for this video, a swing launch? The first swing launch roller coaster was introduced in 1998, Linear Gale, an inverted impulse coaster by Intimate Amusement Rides. The concept is quite simple. A roller coaster that uses LSM or older models which use LAM technology will send the train down the same launch track with multiple passes until the roller coaster builds up enough speed to complete the course. The term multi-pass or shuttle launch is now more commonly known as a swing launch. The number of passes a roller coaster must take over the same launch track to be considered a swing launch really doesn't matter as long as it's more than one. As you will see in this video, the most common would be 3 passes, but there are roller coasters that do more or less. Before we get to my ranking of every swing launch coaster that I've ridden, just a friendly reminder that I ask you to hit that like button, and if you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. You can also follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. I post daily content, so go check it out. Number 7, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, located at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, operating since 2019. When you think of Hagrid's, a swing launch isn't probably the first thing that comes to mind. This is a multi-launching roller coaster that has a lot of variety, but for this video I'm going to focus on one moment of the ride, the multi-pass launch that happens a little over halfway through the coaster experience. Because this element is tucked away out of sight, I don't have any off-ride footage, but we'll show you some of the POV. Using a fast switch track, the coaster train, after passing the 3-headed dog, takes a turn to the left, followed by a quick launch that dives down and then up into a near vertical spike. After stalling out, the train then rolls back and hitting the launch again that sends you flying into a cave. Hagrid's is more about the theming and storytelling than the actual ride intensity, so this is the weakest of all the swing launches on this video. Also, calling this moment a swing launch might be stretching it, but technically it does count. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, looking at the coaster as a whole, is one of the best coasters on my list, but just taking this one element into consideration will put it at the bottom of my list. Number 6, Wicked Twister, located at Cedar Point, operated from 2002 to 2021. Wicked Twister will be used as my fill-in coaster for all the inverted impulse coasters. When it operated, I considered it to be the best one. The ride layout is extremely simple. Start out with a launch into a spike, backwards launch into the reverse spike, forward launch again to get you to the max speed and reach the max height on the forward spike. One final reverse launch up into the max height of the reverse spike, then forwards once more, but I think there was no launch happening during this part of the ride. Stall out on the forward spike and brakes back into the station. These roller coasters are all about the launch and G-forces you will experience entering and exiting the vertical spikes. There really isn't anything subtle about these coaster models, just look how quickly the ride transitions from horizontal to vertical. This is where you will experience the strongest G-forces. As you can imagine, these coaster types are very repetitive and don't offer much variety and thrills. Some of the models will have a vertical holding brake during the reverse spike, but not sure if any of them still use this feature. Regardless, these are intense but predictable coasters, thus near the bottom of my list. Number 5, Full Throttle, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain, operating since 2013. Prior to Full Throttle, a swing launch, or shuttle launch, whatever you want to call it, was basically an element that was reserved for quote-unquote shuttle coasters. But with Full Throttle, we have a full-circuit, multi-train coaster with this feature. I say multi-train because technically a Skyrocket 2 model is a full circuit, but functions as a shuttle coaster. After completing the first launch and giant vertical loop, Full Throttle comes to a complete stop inside a tunnel. After a few seconds, the coaster starts to accelerate backwards out of the tunnel, traveling up into the dive loop element, stalling out, and then diving back into the tunnel, accelerating up to its max speed, then blasting out of the tunnel and flying over the top of the giant vertical loop. Comparing the forces to the first launch, I'd say that this swing launch isn't as intense, but with a tunnel it really adds to the whole experience. For most, it's simply the whole traveling backwards that makes this a great moment, but for those looking for a forceful launch, will not find it here, though Full Throttle does give a little kick during the forward launch prior to climbing up into that top hat. Number 4, Icebreaker, located at SeaWorld Orlando, operating since 2022. Instead of using 3 passes like most swing launches, Icebreaker decided to go the gimmicky route and tack on an additional backwards launch, giving you a total of 4 launches. That first backwards launch is very slow and basically pointless, but honestly, who cares? The factor that makes this shuttle launch so much fun isn't being an intense launch, but the amount of airtime you will experience. On the end of each side of that launch track are small bunny hills. As the coaster builds up more speed, these bunny hills get more intense, providing some great pops of ejector airtime. If you want to experience everything that this swing launch offers, you must sit in the back of the train. The reverse track consists of a beyond vertical spike, that if you are in the back seat, you will get some airtime. Though sitting anywhere else, this element feels rather pointless. All the other airtime moments are great in any other row, but yeah, for that reverse spike, must ride in the back row. Number 3, Tempsto, or basically any of the Skyrocket 2s, located at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, operating since 2015. When someone talks about a swing launch roller coaster, most of the time they're referring to a Skyrocket 2 by Premier Rides. These coasters put the whole multi-pass launch on the map. The ride starts off with a short forward launch, followed by a stronger reverse launch, then hitting your max speed forward launch, sending you to the top of the giant vertical spike. In a true swing launch fashion, every launch feels crazier and more intense than the last one. What's great about the Skyrocket 2, when compared to other shuttle coasters like Inverted Impulse Coaster, it's more than just the launch. The top hat, slow-moving inline twist, and non-inverting loop are all great elements that make this a complete package. If you want to get the true full experience, try one of the models that feature no comfort collars, so when you are rolling slowly upside down, it's just you and your lap bar keeping you locked in your seat. Number 2, Gale Force, located at Playland's Castaway Cove, operating since 2017. This has to be the most underrated roller coaster on my list. Gale Force is a kind of a coaster that everyone forgets about. This roller coaster did have a rocky start, with its complete retrack and all after the first season, but now it's a great coaster that has a forceful launch and crazy intense maneuvers. The swing launch, similar to Icebreaker, the first pass seems somewhat pointless. It's not until you're traveling backwards does this coaster start to build up any speed. From what I hear, allegedly this coaster can complete a whole circuit on a single launch, but the Parker manufacturer chooses not to do so. The swing launch builds up that speed, extending the ride time and allowing riders to travel backwards. Beyond the launch, Gale Force is a powerhouse of a ride. I'd rank it up there as one of the most intense coasters I've been on. That first top hat has some insane ejector airtime, rivaling airtime moments found on Skyrush. Unfortunately, this coaster isn't the smoothest. It has some jackhammering going on, especially if you are seated in one of the outer seats. But if you can look past that one shortcoming, Gale Force is one heck of a coaster. Number 1, Pantheon, located at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, operating since 2022. Before sitting down to write my script for this video, there was no doubt in my mind that the best swing launch roller coaster would be Pantheon. Unlike the other coasters on my list, where the swing launch may not be the highlight part of the ride, on Pantheon, this is the best moment of the ride by far. The swing launch is split up into multiple parts. First, after passing through the switch track, riders get a little boost and travel over a speed hill. This first pass isn't really intense, but serves as a taste of what's to come. The coaster hits another boost, then stalls out about 2/3 the way up the top hat element. In reverse, the coaster hits the first LSM launch, sending you right into that speed hill, but now backwards and super intense. This moment of ejector airtime is crazy and surprises me every time. After the hill, the coaster hits another boost, a small quick pop of ejector, then smack right into the giant vertical spike. Regardless if you are seated in the very back or the front of the train, riders will experience this vertical spike. But do note that the back row is the best for this element. The train then stalls out and rolls forward, once again over that small ejector pop, into the launch, through the second airtime hill, and second boost, and now up and over the top hat. The swing launch is an exciting moment that's long, forceful, and pure crazy. I really hope Intamin continues to work on the swing launch concept and incorporate it into more of their upcoming projects. Well, that's going to do it for my favorite swing launch roller coasters. A multi-passing launch coaster may have been around for about 25 years, but not until very recent is this element starting to realize its full potential. Manufacturers like Intamin Amusement Rides, Mock Rides, and Premier Rides are really starting to take this concept to the next level. I can't wait to see what other crazy ideas these companies come up with while using this concept. Just a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more great content coming your way by Extreme Thrills.